What is up, boys?
Woo!
We are here for a first ever playoff edition of the Blind Pig podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. So before we get into
the
absolutely. Before we get into the conversation, let's obviously pay some bills. Isn't that what they say? Let's pay the bills.
Yeah.
Hook us up with a like, a share, and a follow. If you're listening, feel free to come find us on youtube.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, also know you can catch us on every major audio platform. Anybody that carries podcasts, we're pretty much there. Catch us on socials at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And of course, as always, come hook us up with a membership at bgobsession.com, where we are one of the oldest. I think we are the oldest now running active Washington football message board. So we're kind of old school, but we keep it current. So, gentlemen, we did it. We slayed the dragon. It took 59 minutes and 58 seconds to do it, but we did it, damn it, and it happened. That was a wild ass game. It was a division fight. A lot of people are talking about how we should have dominated. Fuck that. We beat Dallas. We split Dallas. We went 4-2 in the division. We locked up the 6th seed. If you didn't like how it happened, you can kiss my ass. You know what I mean? Like, we're there, buddy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I don't care how we did it, but we did it. We're 12 and
Derek,
freaking 5.
I'm so happy I would kiss your white ass. That's so happy I am. I have no problem, man. Drop them.
I'm so happy I'd pay to watch that.
We'll do it on the podcast.
But
That's
guys,
with their premium subscription to BGO. You can watch them kiss your ass.
Oh Lord,
that's right. Yeah, an extra $10 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have BGO and OnlyFans going now. Is that our next revenue venture?
Derek, as you can see, we got like an inch of snow in North Carolina, so I had to put my cold weather gear on. But I just wanted to run down quickly. These are the categories we lost against Dallas. First downs, 18-23. Net yards, 269-378. Rush yards, 113-150. Pass yards, 156-228. Fumbles, 1-0. Time of possession, 23-37. The only categories we won were penalties
And score.
red zone efficiency, yes, and goal to go situations. And most of that was at the hands of Marcus Mariota. What a ballsy. I don't know what was better, man. Seeing Mariota go out there and just continue doing what we've seen JD do all year long, or the shit-eating grin on JD's face as he watched the entire thing unfold. That, I don't know about you guys, but I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was, look, man, if we're gonna, this has always been a developmental year, right? This has been a year of the new, the year of turning the page from Dan Snyder. Evil man is now gone, and we're heading in the right direction. And go figure, we beat the Cowboys on a last-second touchdown. 5 seconds after the Bears beat the Packers and make it a moot point anyway. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So at this point now, it didn't matter. Now it was for pride to prevent splitting, to prevent getting swept. This is how I would love to see when the last time that we went in the NFC East, we did not get swept by a single team.
Yeah. And going back to Jaden being pumped, I thought it was cool too, because like whenever Jaden makes a game-winning play or a crazy play, he's pretty calm. But then when his boys do it, then he was going nuts. So that was pretty cool. You can see that he's genuinely into his teammates, and they all respect him.
Poor K-Dog is here. He's sitting in the waiting room.
You missed my intro, K-Dog. I was on my pedestal for a second there.
I like it.
Corey ran 17 red lights to jump in here with us. Thank you. And yet I'm like leaving them hanging out there. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, no, it's all good. By the way, how about them Cowboys? Am I right?
Oh, what a day! What a day!
He wasn't even there for it. So
yeah, well,
that's right.
Yeah, Zeke got cut before the game started.
Yeah.
I do wonder if we got Mike McCarthy fired. I don't know. I don't think we did, but
I don't think so.
No.
They don't have to actually fire him. His contract's up. They can just not re-sign him. They never have to say he was fired.
Yeah, that's good.
Although the noise down here is right this minute, I would be surprised unless somebody else comes in and signs him somewhere else. There's a little noise about maybe New Orleans would be interested in him, and I think one other team.
The Bears.
So,
I saw Schefter said that the Bears
really?
are
Schefter
requesting
said the Bears?
permission to interview McCarthy.
Who would they bring in if they did can him? Or if they didn't do another contract?
Well, and who would want to go there? Like, not to sound terrible, but I could probably name 4 destinations off the top of my head that are better destinations in Dallas right now.
Well, they got
just
so much
quarterback position.
They got so much money tied up in a couple of players.
I can see Jerry offering it to Zimmer. The defense played well this year, especially when you consider all the injuries that they had. I can totally see Jerry offering it to Mike Zimmer, and I can see Zimmer potentially taking it. But that's the only real name off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So at halftime, I don't know about you guys, I love to do. We do a game day chat that's really great every game day, but it can be rough in there, and I'm kind of like I have so much anxiety in my own self that sometimes I just can't. It's not that I don't enjoy it, but I just have to get out because I'm overwhelmed by everyone else's anxiety. So I kind of jump ship on chat and try to focus on the game. But at halftime, the first half, I kind of thought, oh my God, man, this is like worst case scenario. We're going to go into the playoffs, which we were regardless, but we're going to go into the playoffs with like a terrible performance and just like all kinds of doubts and negative energy. And then the second half happened, and I want to hear what Corey has to say about.
Well, hold on. Before Corey talks, I got to give Corey. I got to give him a shine. I was in the chat. I separated myself in the fourth quarter too, but the entire game, Corey's like, we look like shit, but it's okay because we're still gonna win. It was every post he made in the chat. It was followed by, but it's okay because we're gonna win. Like it was great.
Look, I'm gonna throw it out there. I had zero doubt about this one because we are the better team. Dallas has more talent. They really do. But we're the better team, and I had zero doubt about it. But, again, it is a little concerning when you watch the team come out and they lay a total egg the entire first half. They couldn't get out of their own way. Penalties, just nonstop nonsense. Our line, Biotish going down again. All those things add up. Then you look at Jaden, and he clearly didn't look like Jaden yesterday in the beginning of the game, and whether that was a bad game or he's banged up, we'll see. But he looked like the guy that was banged up earlier in the season, which to me kind of points at his leg was bothering him. But, we can talk about that stuff. I thought Terry was very disappointing. I know he had the big catch at the end to break the record.
Before you move on, Corey, I got a question. Speaking from a coaching perspective, it almost looked like they didn't even prepare. Like it almost looked like there was the game plan was there, but it wasn't like it was a game plan. I not even in a bad way. Just it was not. You know what I mean? Like they did. It was vanilla almost. They went into this game just like heads up, let's go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We're not going to get too exotic, at least until the second quarter when Kingsbury started throwing with De'Ami Brown. But
what I think happened really was that everything was the same this week, but they kind of were like, hey, we don't have to fight. We're in. We're gonna play this game, and we want to beat them, and blah blah blah. And then as the game went on, the competitive juices got flowing, and then Mariota got told that he was going in the game, and everybody seems to like him. So everybody's like, hey, listen, Jaden's our guy, but let's give this guy some shine. Let's make him look good. Let's play our best. Let's step up our game and help him win a game. And you could see the difference, especially in Terry in the second half. I mean, he was night and day. The first half, he was awful. Second half, he had probably the best performance of the season, in my opinion, with the spectacular catches. But, I think, again, I want to in my thread today, I gave a shout out to the guy, but I think the most valuable player for us yesterday was Jeremy Chin. That dude was an animal. 2 TFLs, a sack, and 13 tackles, and he had that bone-breaking hit again. The guy's just an animal. I think he's someone that we need to make sure we get re-signed. I think he's more important than Fowler to get re-signed. So I really wanted to give that shout out to Jeremy Chin because that guy's a stud.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we had our buddy from Bavaria, Mark, chime in long distance. So I want to give his first take on what he saw on Sunday before we get too much farther along.
Hey, all, something a little different. For the last 30 years, we watched Washington lose that game. We've watched them lose it in ways so creative that you figure some nasty-ass scriptwriter had to write them. Missed extra points, penalties, overruling scoring touchdowns, non-called penalties, spoiling potential game-winning touchdowns. It's been so long, and it is so ingrained, at least in guys my age, that you just never know when something bad's going to happen. And all this year, we have watched the opposite happen. We have watched something good happen over and over and over, to the extent that this team that arguably, if they had won 7 or 8 games this year and ended up looking like they might be competent and have a quarterback, I'd have been thrilled with. And so would just about anybody listening to this. Instead, 12 wins, going to the playoffs. It defies belief, and I reminded myself 20 times watching that game yesterday, enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it, and then we were rewarded. More later, but I just wanted to touch base with that. This has been a special thing, and we all know it.
So I got to give my buddy Derek just a pat on the back, because all season long, as we've witnessed, what none of us expected to witness, Derek's been in the background, even in chat, saying, "Look, man, this is all like we just found a bag of money on the side of the road. It's like, this is unbelievable, and we just need to enjoy it and not spend too much time like criticizing anything or anyone, because no one could have expected this in the first season of a rebuild." And he is 100, 1,000, 1,000,000% right on that. And I think Mark is kind of echoing that same sentiment, which is if you'd have said we were going to win 12 games and be in the playoffs before this season, you would have been stoned. You would have at a minimum.
Yeah, they'd have said Ashburn syndrome. They'd have called you a homer. They would have said, like all of the cliches.
But that's exactly where we are. So anyway, Paul, I want to hear from you, man. What were your feelings during the Dallas game?
Yeah, so personally myself, I'm still trying to pick my jaw up off the floor. I'm shocked and amazed at what has transpired this season, and just the amount of good fortune that has followed us throughout the year. But that all being said, that good fortune is very well deserved. We've suffered for so long that every good, thrilling moment that has found this franchise this year, you just have to embrace it and wrap your arms around it. But in terms of the Dallas game, I thought the team was a little bit flat to start the game. And I think a big component, or something that factored largely into that, was the amount of emotion that had to go into the previous game against Atlanta. That game required a huge emotional investment by all our players. The players understood the magnitude of that game. They understood the value and importance of that game to this franchise's trajectory. And so much went into that previous week, when you factor in the thrill of overtime and whatnot, and just the way that game played out. I think it was natural for this team to come out looking the way that they did at the start of the game. And, once we got into the third and fourth quarter, you felt the energy pick up, And, the team found themselves invested in the moment, and to their credit, they ran with the opportunity, and it was great just to see them stick with it and pull that win out at the end there. And the stick with itness of this team has been a really, really cool element to this season. And I think a lot of the credit for that goes to this coaching staff and the leadership of Dan Quinn. So I was quite impressed.
Paul, before you move on, because you have been, you have not held back your emotional investment, not only in these games, but I am curious, being the furthest reaching member of our fan base that's on the podcast. Like, where was your head and where was your feeling at when Terry McLaurin caught that ball? I you know what I mean? Like, I am actually genuinely curious where you were. Like, you had mentioned streaking in the quad at one point, and I'm curious if Canada got to see
quad somewhere.
Did you go running through downtown Toronto last night?
No, but I will say this: I'm 40 minutes from Toronto, and I'm pretty sure that someone in that
Did you
city...
run there last night? Did you run to Toronto last night?
Did you scale the CN Tower?
No, I'm a pretty soft-spoken person for the most part, but I'm fairly certain that 40 minutes away in Toronto, Ontario, somebody heard me screaming, and somebody heard the thrill that I was experiencing, and they've heard it multiple times this year. I mean, that Hail Mary against Chicago, the game last week against Atlanta, it has been an absolute roller coaster of a season, and I don't want to know the amount of damage that has been inflicted on my heart this year, but it's all been well worth it. So
I am going to confess to you guys, this was the exact thing that happened in my house, and I kind of like checked out a little bit, like halftime-ish, because I was just like, this isn't gonna, it's not looking good, and so I'm trying to emotionally protect bubble wrap my heart for where we might not win this one. When Mariota hit McLaurin for that touchdown, I screamed, like I probably screamed it like 17 or 18 times. They did it again. I screamed. I mean, my wife is looking at me like I'm insane, like she always does. But that's what I said over and over and over again. They did it again. And there might have been a couple of F-bombs in there, but they did it again. They did it. I just couldn't believe it. Again. And it's like, it's not even JD doing it.
But you know what's funny?
Is doing it.
You know what's funny to me though is all you guys had all these great emotions and stuff. I sat there like when he caught the ball, I was like, yeah, I never had any doubt.
Yeah, you're like, I told you so. I told you fuckers so.
I'm like, but that's a weird feeling for me too. It's almost like it's kind of the same thing, right? Because in years past, it would have been no shot, we lost, I'm turning it off. I don't want to watch this last play. Screw this. This time it was, he's going to catch a pass. I thought they were going to go to De'Ami Brown because they were going to double cover Terry. So I thought they were going to slant underneath the De'Ami because he was hot and he was going to score, whatever. But then they threw it up to Terry, and I saw Terry go up, and I didn't even see the catch. I just saw him go up, and I'm like, yeah, touchdown. And then he came down with it, and everybody's going nuts, and I'm like, this is now what we do. Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say that I'm not excited about it or I wasn't happy about it. I mean, like, of course I had a feeling of joy. Anytime we win, I feel good about it, right? But now it's not a shock to me anymore. This is our new normal for me. And part of me is jealous of that reaction, guys. I'm going to be honest, because I really wish I felt that euphoria again. But it was more like, this is what we do. This is who we are. This is our team. And I don't know. I think it's kind of the same reaction, just in a different kind of way. It's exciting for our future. And again, I think we're kind of talent deficient in a lot of spots, and we're still doing it because we play like a team. So that's exciting, and I'm very happy about it too. But again, it's totally. He's going to catch it. Game over. We win.
And to your point, K-Dog, and that's what John. One thing when you mentioned you want. one of the things that I have maintained, and I keep it to K-Dog's point, we are talent deficient. We are not.
Right.
We might be the better team on the field, but we're not going to be the more talented team half the time we get on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. We got the Bengals at the right time, and we ended up beating them. That team is by far more talented than we are. It's not even close.
Yeah.
But that's part of where I'm looking at things when I'm tampering my like. The other thing is, guys, let's be real. I know we all need secondary help. Marshawn Lattimore's hurt. Guess what? We're not going to do it in week 18. So why am I going to get upset when in week 19 we still struggle in the secondary? There's nothing we can do about it now. You know what I mean? It's kind of expected. So that's more my point when I would keep saying let's actually look at the way things are going. And what are we supposed to? Are you telling me we're going to find an all-pro left tackle walking the street before we enter the game against the Bucs? No. Guess what? Jaden Daniels is probably going to be in a lot of heat this weekend. But I can't get mad at Adam Peters about it now. Guess what? We just won 12 fucking games, and we weren't supposed to win 6. Okay, that's what Vegas had us at, 6.5. So that's where I'm always coming back and saying, well, let's not get frustrated yet because you can't do everything in one offseason.
So Tony, man, I know Tony's got this precious young daughter, and I know because every time we post a podcast, she's like, "Great job, Dad." I love you, Daddy.
Yeah.
I wait.
She's our biggest fan. Don't make fun of our biggest fan, John. How dare you?
She might be our only fan, but
that's
anyway,
true.
I love when she posts on our podcast page. But I just want to hear from Tony, like, minus. I know you probably didn't shout any foul language because your daughter was probably in the room.
Oh, he did.
Oh yeah, no, that's that's not. Yeah,
That ship has sailed, John.
Touchdown.
She knows all the words. She's 11 and goes to public school.
Because I do cuss, she won't cuss. Because I do, like she won't. But when Terry caught the touchdown, yeah, I was screaming, "Let's effing go!" and running around and losing my mind, like so many other times this season. But then also like K-Dog, like even though we were playing well and losing, I still thought we were going to win. I was like, I've heard this song so many times this year. We're just going to win. But I was still, really hyped up when he did make that catch. And then it also is just something about the NFL and the games in general. Like, had OZ caught that touchdown, who knows how the rest of the game plays out. And then even looking around the NFL, like the Bears game, the Bears have been crap. Like the Cowboys have at least been competitive throughout the season, and the Bears have been crap, and they beat the Packers. And even the Bucs were in the game, with Spencer Rattler for a long time. So, it's easy to just look at us and be like, oh no, this is ridiculous. This is unbelievable. But when you look at games throughout the league, except for the Chiefs game where they laid down, like a lot of the games were competitive. So, yeah.
See, it was a really weird day here. January 5th is the word sacred is overused, but it's a big day in my house. It's 12th night. And we always close the holiday season with our family of choice is the reference there, right? My kids' godparents are here, my former haunt partners. We do a big dinner. So I'm in the kitchen all day. So I had the TV on at the far end of the kitchen and I'm cooking and I've got one eye on what I'm doing and one eye on the TV. And so I missed a lot of this stuff. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the game. Like I don't even Tony just referenced the drop touchdown pass by OZ. I have no clue what you're talking about. I missed that play completely, right?
Hey, hold on before you move on then, Bob. $5 if you can guess who threw it.
Oh, it had to be Daniels.
No? Nope.
Oh,
you lost
who threw it? Who threw it? Wasn't
Brown.
I don't know. I'll go watch the game again later this week. But so it was really strange, and I remember while I was working, I had this weird conflicting thought process. The first thought process was very similar to Corey's. There's no way we lose this game, right? We're the better football team. The problem was Micah Parsons was playing like out of his head, and nobody on the offensive line seemed to be particularly interested in slowing the man down. It felt like all they wanted to do was wave a checkered flag at him, especially early in the game. and I kept watching, and all I could think was, God, if we have to lose twice to a football team, why does it have to be fucking Dallas again? Right? That's my thought process, because I live here, and it just, if there's one thing outside of a championship that I would like to see this ownership group, this front office group, this coaching group do, it's turn around our record against the Cowboys. We are so deep in the hole to them, it's just not even funny. And we seem to get deeper even in years where they're lousy and we're good. Best case scenario seems to be split. And I desperately want this football team to reel off 2, 3, 4 years where over the course of a significant amount of time, we go like, 9-1 or 7-3 against the Cowboys, 8-2 against the Cowboys over the next 5 years, right? I would, bragging rights. And so I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm working on all this food that's going to be amazing. And I'm waiting for my friends to show up. And I'm watching my football team that just totally demolished the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, the other night, late in the game, played really well and have done some amazing stuff this year. And I'm watching them like, not quite. Everything is just a second off, just an inch off, just, it. And I thought, God bless. And then when Marcus came in, I didn't know what to think. I desperately wanted to believe in the man. He played great earlier in the year. But at the same token, you've watched that first quarter, that first half, and you're going, well, they didn't play well with JD. Why would they play any better with Marcus? I mean, this is theoretically a step backwards, but it wasn't. And so now I'm trying to cook and keep 2 eyes on the TV, and, and that final touchdown, my wife walked through the kitchen as that touchdown was taking place, and she stopped and stared at the TV. Now, you've got to understand, my wife is not a football fan. My wife does not care at all. She stood there and stared. And she turned around and looked at me, and she went, "He caught that." I said, "Yeah." She said, how did he catch that? By now they're like 3 replays deep from, all different angles. And she's like, "I don't know how he came down with that." And then they cut to Jaden Daniels, and he's got that big shit-eating grin on his face. And my wife stopped, and it was like the first time she'd seen him all season long. She goes, "That's a good-looking young man."
So what you're saying is that your wife is not going to be coming to any BGO tailgates in the future.
I know. I'd love to bring her to a BGO tailgate. I just don't be a big fan of going to a football game. She's an introvert. She does not like large crowds. And so
bring her to a football stadium.
Going to a football stadium when there's a game is not her thing. She would go when there's no game because there's nobody there and lots of space. She would love that.
So, Bob, you mentioned you were talking about like success against the NFC East, and I've done this all throughout the season, so I'm just going to wrap it up. The good news is it's the last time I'll do this, but I wanted to give some stats nuggets on the season. Obviously, everyone's heard 12 wins for the first time since 1991. 5-3 on the road, best road record since 2012. 9-3 versus NFC opponents, and that's the best since 2005. And I didn't realize this, but credit to the defense, we didn't allow first half touchdown in that game against Dallas. That was the 7th time we've held a team without a touchdown in the first half in 2024. Plus 92 point differential is the best since 2007. 485 total points, tied with 1991 team for the second most ever. Ditto total net yards, almost 6,300. That's the second all-time most total net yards by an offense. 20 in Washington. 26-19 total rushing yards. That's the third all-time amount of rushing yards. 5-game winning streak to close. That's the longest streak we've had since the 2012 7 in a row or we don't go, which is a pretty magical stretch. And then
why is nobody talking about that 5-game winning streak heading into the playoffs?
It's a pretty big deal, I think. And it's not like those games were easy games. And of course, McLaurin setting the record, which, I mean, that was the first thought I had when that play happened was, oh my God, really? Like, he hasn't really looked like Terry the whole game, or for the most part. And then boom, they said, let's get Terry that record. They did. Like,
Yeah.
That had to have been the plan in the huddle. And that's one thing about McLaurin. When he decides he's going to catch a fucking ball, it doesn't seem to matter who's covering him, what the play is, how unlikely it is, how good the throw is. He just catches the damn thing. Anyway.
I got one more stat for you because Derek asked the question early in the show. When was the last time we weren't swept by or
we weren't swept by any team in the NFC East?
In the NFC East, yeah. You're going to be shocked, Derek. The year is 2022.
Oh, really?
Now, it's a technicality because we got swept by Philly. We got swept by Dallas. We lost the second game to New York, but we tied the first game. So technically, New York did not sweep us in 2022.
Yeah, but we did get swept by the Cowboys and the Eagles that year.
Oh, you mean by no? I take that back. We did not get swept. We split with the Cowboys and the Eagles, and then tie and a loss with New York. So it's a technicality in my book. But yeah.
Okay.
I thought I would have to go back a whole lot further. I was shocked when I only had to go back 2 years to find that. But
interesting. I'll take it. I'll take it on a technicality. I don't care.
I think,
but it just seems like every year one of them's got our number, right? It seems like every year.
Forget that because we felt so bad about that football year, and especially those Giant games. That was the year of the Giant game where Terry got mugged in the end zone and no call.
Yeah, and if we would have won instead of tied, it would have. Yeah. Oh my gosh, would it have been a wild card? Would the wild card come down to that tie? Am I remembering correctly?
But
I don't know. Yeah. Anyways,
so
speaking of wild card, we're a wild card this year. Damn it, and I don't care.
What a transition! Let's talk about the transition. That was awesome.
That was top tier.
So, I know a lot of us were excited that we don't have to travel to Philly. I think it's a good thing. But to this point, I've always said we've been playing with house money, so it's not that big of a deal. But I think the matchup of the three options we got is the best one for us. Going to Philly, beating a team twice in a year is difficult. Going to LA, long travel. I think they've got more weapons. Tampa has Mike Evans. Baker might play with his hair on fire or his ass on fire. Who knows? You know what I mean? I think he's the more volatile of the two. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a shorter travel, better weather circumstances. Going to Philly is going to suck for whoever has to go to Philly this weekend because they're calling for more snow up here in the Northeast. So, and we've already played Tampa. We've already prepped for Tampa once. You know what I mean? So they're reintroducing the week one preparation back into a team that is different than it was 17 weeks ago. So I'm curious what you guys are looking at.
I would have preferred the Rams. I don't worry about the travel part of it, although that might be a legitimate thing to worry about. But I just feel like the Rams aren't playing as well.
I worry about Puka Nacua and those weapons they got out there. More
talented, but I don't know. I kind of felt like that would have been a better opportunity for us. But I'm just glad that we're not going. Not that I think if we survive, we're going to face the Eagles at some point. I think the Eagles are Super Bowl bound unless someone shocks them. I just don't want us to have to shock them in the first round of the playoffs in a wild card game after we already did it once, like just a couple weeks ago. I just think it's tough to do that. I think the further we go in the playoffs, the more balls out, just throw everything at the wall Kingsbury will be and the team will be. I think they'll take more chances, which I think favors us. And I would rather them do that later with the Eagles if we have to face them, if we can get past, the first round or so. But I don't want to go back. I don't want to go to Philadelphia. I think it's really hard to beat a really good team like that back to back. But if we're going to have to do it, I'd rather do it like when we're really, we've already surpassed all expectations, but I think we can win a playoff game And I like our chances better against either Tampa or the Rams, in this case, Tampa, than I do against Philly. So that's kind of how I see it.
See, this is going to sound crazy, but at some point in time in this playoff run, assuming we get by Tampa, I kind of hope we end up having to play Detroit. Now I want to see how we measure up against the team that is obviously the best in our conference for the full length of the season. I want to go to Detroit, and I want to see how we play against that team. I know we can beat Philadelphia. We just did it. Let's go measure ourselves against the team that won.
It took some heroics, though, Bob. I mean, let's not get ourselves.
Well, the other thing is, if we're going out, I want to go out against the best. Or conversely, if we're going to go on, I want us to have gone through the best to get there.
Hey, Bob. The Lombardi Trophy doesn't change colors if you don't beat the best team in the league. I don't give a shit who we go through. Not to sound terrible, but if Detroit and Philly were to get eliminated this week, I'd be okay with having to beat the Rams in the NFC Championship. I don't care.
Detroit gets to sit at home and watch everybody else beat each other up this weekend, so they will definitely be there in 2 weeks.
But that team is awesome to watch. And yes, would it be it would be great to have that feather in the cap that you beat the Lions on the way. But at this point, I'm happy we're here, and I keep coming back to it, and I'm gonna have fun on Sunday night. It's gonna suck having to wait until freaking 8:00 though. Like, could we not have gotten a better time to pick? But
speaking of Sunday night, well, I think that says a lot, right? I think the NFL looked at this and went, "We want these two teams in prime time."
Well, they want the world wants to see Jaden. They want to see.
Corey is chomping at the bit. What do you think, Corey?
So, I wanted Tampa anyways. I thought it was the best matchup. I think we're screwed if Lattimore can't go anyways. Everybody's talented now. So defensively, I think we're in trouble. So I looked at the team that I thought we would be most motivated against. Philadelphia, we just beat. So are we going to be motivated? Yeah. But we owe one to Tampa. So I'm like, all right, so this is probably the best matchup. It's going to be in warm weather. Jaden is okay in cold. I'm not saying he's not. But LSU kid, he played at LSU and Arizona State in college, right? So he's used to the warmer weather. That's the other thing. And Tampa Bay is 0-6 in prime time the last 2 seasons. I'm going to repeat what I just said. Tampa Bay is 0-6 in prime time the last 2 seasons. Now, somebody's probably listening going, but K-Dog, we stink in prime time too. No, we don't, though. Not anymore. We have JD5 now. And again, that makes a difference in the way things are going for us, right? So at the end of the day, I think all of the chips for this game have aligned perfect for us. The fact that we got Tampa, the fact that we got them in prime time on Sunday night and not a Saturday afternoon game, it is all aligning for us. And after years and years of being an awful franchise, I've always said that luck makes itself. You make luck. Luck is preparation and opportunity combined, right? And our team has not gotten lucky because we didn't have those things. We have this year. And it is all lining up for us to make a run. Now, do I think we beat Tampa? We'll talk about that later. But I do think that there is a lot that's aligning for us. And I just have it's that same feeling I had last week is in the pit of my belly right now. So I think everything aligns perfect for us. I think Tampa's the perfect opportunity for us. That's not taking anything away from the Buccaneers. They're a good team. But magic.
So week 1 was a long time ago, but I thought it was worth going back and looking at what happened in week 1. So I'm just going to run through that. It may mean nothing or it may mean something, but we lost 37-20. We were held scoreless in the first quarter, something that hasn't happened to us a lot. We only had 6 points in the fourth quarter, and that's especially different from what we've been doing lately, where we kind of come back in the fourth quarter to seize games. We gave up 2 Mike Evans touchdown receptions and 1 to Chris Godwin. I think Baker had 4 total touchdowns. Mayfield went 24 of 30 for 289 yards no turnovers. Could have been a lot worse. We fumbled 3 times, and we recovered all 3 of the fumbles. So it really could have been out of hand, like almost out of the gate, but we were able to recover fumbles. One of the big things that jumped out at me was we were only 2 for 8 on third down. Tampa was 9 of 13 on third down. We lost the time of possession by about almost 9 minutes. Jaden had 2 rushing touchdowns, but no passing touchdowns. And we only sacked Mayfield 1 time in the entire game. So that's just kind of setting the stage for what happened a long time ago in week 1. Not to say that has any relevance, but that's kind of the bar that we're looking to do a lot better on.
And I think honestly, we're a different team, right? I mean, we are a completely different team than we were in week 1. Now, does that mean the outcome's going to be dynamically different? Who knows? But I know this: we're going into week 1. I wouldn't be confident we could hang 30, but I'm pretty confident we could put 30 on the board on Sunday. You know, like, so where do we go from there? Like, is that a lot of it's different than it was in week 1.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, I go back and look at the box score, you know, in week 1. Daniels was 17 of 24 for 184, 2 sacks for 23, 16 carries for 88 yards. That sounds a lot like he finished the season. Although now I almost feel like if it were 16 carries, it'd be more like a $120 instead of 88. And he probably left some stuff on the field that first week because he was, you know, who knows. But Baker scares me. But they're missing Chris Godwin. He was their leading receiver against us in week 1. Chris Godwin's on injured reserve, won't be back till next season. Granted, Mike Evans is no slouch. The man is fairly amazing, and Jalen McMillan is playing much better football now. He's not playing like a rookie anymore, which is what he was week 1. He's had to step up with Godwin and Evans out for an extended period of time, but
yeah,
we're both very different teams, and I can't help but feel like we've moved in a positive direction, and if nothing else, the Bucs have moved in something of a negative direction simply out of the names that are on their injured reserve list. We've got some injuries, but we haven't been devastated the way I felt like they were at one point in time in the season. Hell, man, you lose your top 2 receivers for an extended period of time, and you're largely a passing offense. That hurts. You know, that hurts. They lost to Atlanta twice.
So Bob, to that point, and I'll throw this at Tony and Paul to respond to. Of the guys that we have that are out there injured that we could get back, who do you think is the most critical guy?
Oof.
I'll respond to that one. I think we really desperately need Tyler Biadasz back this week. When you think of Tampa Bay and you think of the interior of that defensive line, they have a player there that has the potential to be a game wrecker in Vita Vea. He's going to give us all we can handle this week, and we need to be able to neutralize that man in order to find some success this week. So to me, it's Biadasz. The guy's been a catalyst on that offensive line the entire year, and there's a noticeable difference when he's out of the lineup.
Yeah.
Can I bring up another thing that not a lot of people are talking as much about? How poetic would it be for Lattimore to come back and face Evans? That was the duo. That was the Josh Norman versus Odell Beckham Jr. over the last 3 or 4 seasons, right?
Yeah, they hate each other.
And Evans know each other.
In the game.
Tony, what do you think, man? Is it Biadasz or is it Lattimore or is it both? What?
Yeah, I mean, both are very important, but I think if gun in my head, I'd have to say Badass just because of what he means for our offense, and our offense can function more smoothly. So I would go with Paul there too. But yeah, that's going to be another big difference is having Lattimore back. And I'm guessing a lot of these guys, because the Cowboys game wasn't you absolutely have to have it. If there was a chance to have an extra abundance of caution, they kept out.
Well, they said Biotish could have played.
Yeah.
They said Biotish could have played Sunday. He could have gone. Yeah.
If your leg isn't falling off, I mean, you gotta go. Right. I mean,
but yeah, for the playoffs, that's why I think all these guys will be back and they'll be ready to go.
Well, John, didn't you say that Mark had another video he submitted to us to play during the podcast tonight?
Yeah, man. And I guess normally I'd be like, well, let's try to keep it under an hour, but what the hell? We're in the playoffs, so fuck it.
It's only been 45 minutes. We're fine.
So here's Mark's thoughts on this week.
So as to this game, this is a game that Washington really had no business winning, right? They were out hustled and outplayed, and it kind of looked like out coached for large parts of the game. And they managed to win it anyway, which seems to be something that this iteration of Dan Quinn's, by the way, Dan, this is for you, man. You're making old men like me wear goofy hats backwards. I said early this year when we win, I'm going to do this. So here's to wearing this damn hat backwards again next week. But on this game, the big takeaways to me, Jaden Daniels looks kind of like the guy Bill Belichick said we'd see eventually this year at some point. He said even Jaden Daniels will hit the wall. I don't know if that's what hitting the wall looks like. He was just this far off on a half a dozen plays, on a half a dozen throws. I don't know if that's on Jaden. I don't know if it's on adjustments that were made at halftime, because all of a sudden it looked so different right in the second half. But I think it's fair to say Jaden did not, he didn't take over the game, which is what we've gotten used to seeing. I'm not worried. If we see that again next week and Tampa completely fuddles him and he can't hit anybody, then we got something to talk about. But that hasn't happened yet this year with any appreciable regularity. So I'm ready to see that teed up. I was thrilled to see Marcus Mariota have the day he did. I know a lot of you feel the same way. He just seems like a good dude, and he comes in and just kind of lights it up. And so offensively, obviously the big concern when Biotish is out at center, we can't run the ball. When we can't run the ball, the offense struggles. So I don't know what his status is for Saturday night against Tampa, but if he does play, I like our chances to score some points. I like our chances to run the ball and score points. So offensively, until I see the team mail in a clunker for a whole game and not be able to score the points they need, I'm not going to worry about the offense this year. Defensively, I think it's pretty clear that Joe Witt has been coordinating with one hand tied behind his back all year. When you can't rush the passer on a regular basis, you can't be attacking, you can't be blitzing all up and down. I think there's a reason why we play bend but don't break. We have the horses to defend congested areas down in the red zone, which has been true all year. We have been okay in the red zone defensively. In a tighter space, our secondary, which is lacking in talent, can do just enough, and Witt can get more creative with blitzes and stunts and getting pressure, which he does in the red zone. Between the 20s, more often than not, what I'm seeing is we're containing, rushing for, and making the other team matriculate it down the field, and hopefully they make mistakes. Dallas made enough mistakes and shot themselves in the foot offensively in the red zone enough where they did just enough to keep the team in the game so they could win it. That's not going to change until we get more horses. I know Adam Peters has been making notes all year, and he sees what we see and then some, a lot more than we see. And I have every faith, because I have been shown no reason not to, that next year's team ought to be considerably stronger. And if Jaden Daniels can maintain, hold serve, if nothing else, and be the guy that it looks like he is, We're at the beginning of a long ride, my friends. So I just decided to do this one long segment instead of a bunch of them. I'll close with this. Like I said up top in that video from the parking lot earlier, I am pledging to myself to enjoy every minute of this ride. It can be taken away really fast. So remember what this feels like now and appreciate every moment. If it lasts 1 or 2 years, love it. If it lasts 11 years like it did under Gibbs, remind yourself every Sunday, every day you get up and you think about your team. Love it, because it when it comes around, it's special and not everyone gets to experience it. And here's to all of us getting to do that together. So hail, and we will talk after round 1 of the playoffs next week.
Amen, brother.
I hope everybody on our board, I hope everybody that listens to this podcast, I hope the 6 of us, and I know the 6 of us because we all have been through it, can truly just step back and see where we're at and appreciate it. You know what I mean? Like, there's frustration, I get it, in the moment, but man, this has been a different ride than nobody born in 1992 has seen this.
You're
Like,
right. You're not wrong, man.
you know what I'm saying? Like, this is different. So I hope, to Mark's point, I want to maintain, let's enjoy the moment while we've got it, because who knows how fleeting it is, man.
Well,
so fellas,
anybody that lived through 2012 knows how fleeting it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we all
as
thought we were
crazy
on
as 2012 was,
right
it wasn't
there, right?
even this.
Do what?
So, Bob, I just want to ask the group one thing. This seems different than 2012.
I don't disagree.
I'm just saying, maybe I'll be brutally dashed to the ground. I flew too close to the sun, but it feels like and I'm not saying that you're arguing against me. I'm just saying it seems like the structure and the professionalism and the talent of the people we have in place, and Jaden Daniels, I think that kid, his head and his physical talent is, again, no diminishing what Robert did in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've got our guy for like the next decade. What do you guys think about that? And I think the team's on the right track. I think we're going to have a lot of success in the next decade.
I don't disagree, John. I think where things changed for me in 2012 was when Robert got hurt, the team didn't play as well. We've now seen Marcus come in twice for Jaden Daniels, and this team continue to play good football, or maybe even raise their level from earlier in the game, right? I mean, in the Dallas game, Corey's absolutely right. It's the tale of two halves, and the difference seems to be Mariota coming into the game. In 2012, I think we were all really excited for the first 8, 10, 12 games, then Robert got hurt. And then that playoff game against Seattle, if any of you guys watched that game and thought Robert would ever come back and be the same player again, we're on very different pages, right? I watched him fall apart in that game. I watched that one play where he hurt himself bad again, and I thought, this kid is never going to be the same player after this. And that whole season went dark for me at that point. I mean, it kind of went dark a little earlier than that. And I was never the biggest Shanahan fan in the world. I believe in this front office in a way I didn't believe in that front office. I believe in this ownership group in a way that I hated the old ownership group. And it is absolutely different. I'm just saying that we all thought we were staring at a new dawn in 2012 for quite a while. And then the wheels came off, and it became very clear how quickly it wasn't that. And there have been multiple opportunities this season that the wheels could have come off, and we could have had that same kind of feeling. And the team has just seemed to collectively grab itself, pull itself up by its own bootstraps, and will itself on to the next level. And that's not something I saw in 2012, especially after Robert got hurt. The team didn't seem capable of doing that without him. this team seems capable of doing some things without Jaden. Not to say that he is not the spark that runs this thing. He is. But my 2 cents. I agree with you.
What do you think about that, Corey? Is that just wishful thinking?
No. Well, I think Bob nailed it with one thing that he said, and I think it sums up the whole thing. The biggest difference isn't Jaden, even though I do think Jaden is a better prospect than RG3. It's not Terry. It's not that we don't have Alfred Morris. It's not any of that stuff. It's that we are looking at a team that has a front office and an ownership group that we can depend on and rely on. Whereas even then, we were looking at 2012 and all of us were kind of side-eyeing it going, okay, but this is Dan Snyder. So what's going to happen next? Whereas I just don't get that feeling with this ownership group. Now, it's early and there's still time for them to disappoint us, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think this group in the front office has their stuff together, and I think they're going to keep building. And the other thing is, again, we are very talent deficient, and we're finding ways to win games, which tells me that everything is going in the right direction with this franchise. In 2012, it felt like lightning in a bottle. And this year kind of is too. I'm not going to deny that. But it doesn't feel like lightning in a bottle. It feels like we're establishing a base of operations, and this is going to be the new norm.
And the realistic, our opponents just got released too. The realistic expectation next year, if you look at our schedule, it's going to be brutal. Okay? We might not win 12 games next year, but you have a confidence that we're going to be competitive as hell. And maybe we don't win the division. And
I always caution people, Derek, about you
never know when you're going to play them. You're never going to
right.
But we got the NFC. We have the NFC North, okay, next year, which is Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota. Okay, let's be honest. It's not going to be It's going to be a more difficult schedule. But to K-Dog's point, in 2012, you looked at the following season and said, oh, now we're playing a first place schedule. What's going to happen? Now I look at it and say, all right, it's now time for the progression to take the next step.
Yeah.
We now have another offseason. We now have the ability to address more in some other things. Before we get to the predictions, I don't know if you guys saw what went down at 5:43 p.m. I believe it was. Our president signed the official bill to pass the RFK bill, and very conspicuously, our owners were in the room with the mayor and the president. So I think it's a pretty easy dot to connect that the plan for RFK is a stadium. At this point, the bill only gives the power to the city to maintain control and make the decision for the next 99 years. But I have to believe the stadium is going to end up there, and we're going to hear real quickly that that's what's going on, because they were literally in the room when he signed that paperwork.
Well, I'm glad we have 99 years to figure it out, because if it was only like 70 or 80, I'd be a little worried. But
yeah, because you'll be around. The rest of us probably not. You with a picture, you with a portrait in the attic will still be.
No, hey, Bob. What's going to happen is our kids are going to be hosting this podcast when
I hope they are, man. I hope they are.
And one of my girls better get interested in football in a hurry.
We're counting on Tony's daughter, man. It's all get on Tony's daughter.
All right, gentlemen. So as we wrap this up, I'm curious. And what do you guys think is actually going to go down? Let's get some predictions. I'd like the little couple nuggets if you actually believe it. So, John, what do you got, brother? You're the one on the screen.
Well, I got to say, I pressed Mark, our brother from Bavaria. I pressed him for a prediction, and he totally cheese-dicked. He's like, oh, well, I don't know. And he knows I was going to do this. But I'm like, he's like, I have to know, who's going to be available. It's like, You're a cheese dick. So anyway, he will post his prediction later in the thread. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think everybody that still has their arms and legs attached and is not on injured reserve will play, including Biotic. I think Austin Eckler is going to be a huge part of the next game. We saw him contribute a little bit against Dallas, and I think that was just a little peek into what we're going to see. And I think Lattimore will be ready to go. So I think it's going to be one of those back and forth games where we're all the way through it. It's tit for tat. But I think what's going to happen is Luvu's going to pick off a pass late in the game, and we're going to win it on a field goal as time expires, because that's how we've won a lot of last minute games this year. Not many on field goals. In fact, I don't know if we won one on a field goal, have we? But we're going to against Tampa.
There was a game we made all field goals, wasn't it?
The Giants. Yeah, but I don't think it came down to.
Oh yeah, it didn't come down to one.
We always score touchdowns when we're trying when we're on a last minute drive. So anyway, that's what I got. I got us winning 31-28.
Wow. All right. I love it. I need to start posting these actually in the thread. All right. Next up, brother man. Paul, because you've talked so much, I'm going to get you out of the way, brother. What's up?
Yeah, so I'm not with John this week, unfortunately. I am going.
All right, everybody, just turn the podcast off.
Pack it up and go home.
Oh man.
I am going with Tampa Bay, and I'll share a few reasons as to why. They're a team that I really respect. I think they are a top 10 NFL team, and I think that a lot of people don't give Tampa Bay the credit that they deserve. It's January. Trench warfare is the name of the game. I think the Tampa Bay is a lot better than us on both lines. I already talked about Vita Vea a little bit earlier. I love what they've done along their offensive line. They've invested a lot of high picks, day 1 and 2 picks on their O-line. They got Luke Godecki, Cody Mock, Tristan Wirfs is there. I think we're going to have difficulty against that O-line, and they have enough weapons on offense as well that I think that they're going to be able to feast on this defense. I know we're talking about, how hot Washington is going into the playoffs. We've won 5 in a row. Tampa Bay's right there with us, though. They've won 6 of their last 7 games. And here's another thing that we need to remember. They're a little bit more battle-tested than us right now. If you think back to last year in the playoffs, they went up against the 2 teams right now currently in the NFC who everybody has pegged as being the top 2 teams. They dismantled Philadelphia last year in the opening round of the playoffs, and they went into the 4th quarter on the road against Detroit last year with that game tied. I think they ended up losing by 8 points, but they were tied going into the 4th quarter. So they went toe-to-toe with the Lions. Again, they're a really strong football team. I personally believe Tampa Bay is strong enough to get to an NFC Championship game. We're not quite there in our maturation process yet. And like I said, Tampa Bay is just a bit further along in terms of their development. I'm going to pick the Bucs to win 33-23.
All right. Tony, what you got, brother?
All right. For me, I think, prime time, the big moments, that's where Jaden Daniels shines brightest. It's going to be all hands on deck for this game. Defensively, I feel like Evans and Lattimore, they're just going to fight it out. And then that will also free up Mikey Sandstro. I think he's going to have a big game. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes up with a key play, fumble recovery, a pick, or some kind of 4th down stop or something in this game. Bucky Irving's he's really tough. We got to find some way to stop him, or at least contain him, slow him down. Maybe do our second half thing where we slow him down in the second half. But offensively, I think Eckler, having him back is going to be a big boost for our offense. It adds just a new dynamic to the team. And, with Paul, like Paul said, the Tampa's really good. Got a lot of respect for them. They're playing strong. But, they can also be had to, they also lost to Cooper Rush. Baker Mayfield, some days he's on fire. Some days he'll also give you the ball. So, this season's been so great. I got to keep riding the wave. I think we'll go down there. Our offense will be on point. I'm going to go 33-27 Commanders.
All right. Okay, dog.
Yeah, so one of the things that I strongly believe in, and the reason that people miss on QB evaluations, is they look at the wrong things when they're looking at the draft. Okay. So when you look at a quarterback, in my opinion, the thing you're looking for is that inflappable energy, that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to win and you're not going to stop me mentality. And I think we miss because we get enamored with shiny objects, the big arm, the flashy player. But is their attitude right? Is their mental right? Caleb Williams is a great example of somebody whose mental isn't there, but has all the tools. And I say this because I think we have one of those guys in Jaden Daniels. But I think Tampa Bay has one of those guys too in Baker Mayfield. I think Cleveland really dropped the ball with him, and they've been downhill since. And I think he was the reason that they were any good to begin with. So, to Paul's point, all the respect in the world to Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving's an 1,100-yard rusher. Now, he's not Saquon Barkley, and he's not Bijan Robinson. And we did well against those guys once we buckled down. The problem with that is they also have Mike Evans. So unless Lattimore's healthy and going to work, we're going to have problems on that side of the ball. But we have defied odds every single week. And like I said earlier, this is the team I wanted, but who knows? Then I saw we were playing them on prime time, 8 o'clock Sunday night, and they're 0-6 in prime time. That gut, that feeling that I had all game on Sunday came back to me. I think it's aligning for us, and I think it's setting us up for something magical going into next week. I think we are going to win this game. I don't think we're more talented. I'm not sure that in this case we're the better team, but we're going to be the better team on Sunday. 36-30 Commanders.
Boom.
All right, Bob.
I agree with so much of what everybody has said.
I hear a butt coming.
Well, half of what Corey just said is stuff that I was going to mention, right? I think Lattimore playing this weekend is huge. In fact, I dare say, and Biotic, because I don't know whether you guys realize it, their defensive tackles are their two leading sack guys in Tampa Bay. Not linebackers, not ends. Tackles. They're getting their sacks through the center of the line. So Biotic coming back and playing this weekend is going to be huge. Lattimore playing on Williams on Evans is going to be huge. I don't know. I just have Tampa Bay is a more talented team. And for the record, I think Baker Mayfield is amazing. He is one of the few guys that's hit the open market a couple of times in the last 2 or 3 years that I actually would have liked to have seen the team take a run at before we obviously put ourselves in a position to get Jaden Daniels. I thought Baker Mayfield was underrated, and I think he's a fantastic human being and a fantastic football player. And I'm thrilled that he's found a home someplace that apparently really likes him, because I think the guy's all class. I think they are the more talented football team. I think we are the better team. And I think that's going to be seen on Sunday. This is a team that has consistently played better than the sum of its parts. I can't really find a game this season where we have not played better than the sum of our parts, even in a losing effort. I mean, you could go all the way back to the Tampa game. I kind of write that one off. That's a very, with the way preseason goes in the NFL now, that first football game of the year is really the first time all the starters hit the field together and actually play using a legitimate playbook. And so you never know what you're going to get. All 32 teams in the league are hoping they're going to get something magical that first weekend. Nobody's really 100% certain until they start playing for real. And we've grown so much. We really only lost the one game that I felt like was a stinker, and that was the first Dallas game on the road. I mean, otherwise we've pretty much lost to teams that are all in the playoffs, and anybody in their right mind would say we're better than. Tampa Bay lost to San Francisco, who was really a really lousy football team this year, and they lost that game at home. They lost to Dallas. They've lost some games they absolutely should not have lost. And so I think at the end of the day, Jaden Daniels is the difference. And I think Washington wins this football game. I think 33-24 in a game that's closer than that score is. But I think it all just kind of comes together this weekend, and we play really well. There you go.
Well, gentlemen, I guess I'll close this out by saying I'm gonna channel my inner hope, and I'm gonna channel it back to the days of Sean Taylor. 2005 wild card playoff game. The Sean Taylor returns a fumble for a touchdown. The next time we met the Bucs in 2021, the 2020 season, we lost 31-23. There's a lot of that kind of vibe surrounding this team. Like, it just makes sense that we would win. It made sense we would beat the Falcons. It made sense that we would upset the Eagles. It made sense we would beat Dallas. We found a way into the sixth. It just seems like the mojo is pointing in our direction, even if there are a lot of things to be concerned about and frustrated with. But we continue to find ourselves, to K-Dog's point, opportunity is when preparation meets, or luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And we continue to find ourselves in the right opportunities. So I have to believe we're going to do it again. So I'm going to go poetic here. I'm going to go just tying a bow on things. I think Washington wins 31-23. Because that is what we lost to the Bucs in the 2020 postseason at our home stadium. So we go in their house and we find a way. And that 31 might come late. To Bob's point, it might feel a lot closer than that, but I think that's the final score: 31-23 Washington. Which means I probably doomed us, and I'm sorry.
I think what you heard, from everyone is this isn't a team you want to bet against. This is a team that, like, every time you think they can't, they won't, they shouldn't, and they fucking do. And until they don't, I'm all in.
And we deserve to be here. This is not a fluke. Yeah. We deserve to be right where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, let's tie a bow on the first ever playoff edition of the Blind Pig Podcast. If you've made it this far, please give us a like, a share, and a follow. Hook us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of them. Come join the conversation. And, of course, come integrate yourself into bgobsession.com. Completely free membership. We enjoy every member we get. And as always, boys, I will close things out by saying that'll do, pigs. That'll do.